The greatest tragedy in life is not death. It's what dies inside you while you're still alive. Look around you. Look at the lives of quiet desperation being lived, dreams postponed until they're forgotten, potential buried under the weight of excuses, purpose suffocated by the relentless demands of the ordinary. This is not your destiny, but make no mistake. The distance between where you stand now and where your life is meant to be traveled is crossed only through one power: action, deliberate, immediate, and relentless action. The world belongs to those who move. History remembers those who acted. Legacy is built by those who refuse to wait for permission, for perfect conditions, for absolute certainty. Watch this video every day for better results. When Henry Ford conceived the assembly line that would revolutionize manufacturing forever, experts declared it impossible. Engineers explained in exhaustive detail why it couldn't be done. Ford's response? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Then he built it anyway. That's the power of forced action, to create new realities where others see only limitations. Look at your hands. These are the same instruments that built the pyramids, composed symphonies, cured diseases, and reached for the stars. The human hand, guided by determined will, has reshaped the very fabric of our existence. Yet how many days do your hands accomplish nothing of significance? How many hours slip by in hesitation? The gap between knowledge and action is wider than the Grand Canyon and far more treacherous. In that gap live mediocrity, regret, and the slow death of possibility. Dale Carnegie understood this when he wrote, "Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy." This is not motivation. This is truth. The human mind is a paradox, capable of envisioning magnificent futures yet paralyzed by the prospect of the first step. We dream in vivid color, but hesitate in grayscale. We plan with precision, but postpone with equal skill. Force yourself to take action. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when conditions are perfect. Now. Because action is the antidote to uncertainty. Motion is the cure for doubt. Movement creates momentum, and momentum transforms mountains into molehills. When Thomas Edison was asked about failing 10,000 times before successfully inventing the light bulb, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This wasn't blind optimism. It was the clear-eyed perspective of a man who understood that action, even imperfect action, is infinitely more valuable than perfect planning. Your brain is biologically wired to resist change. This is not a defect. It's a survival mechanism from a time when change meant danger. But in today's world, resistance to change doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. The comfort zone that feels so safe is actually a cage, and the bars are invisible, but no less real. Break them. Force yourself to take action when everything inside you screams for safety. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Steve Jobs was ousted from Apple, the company he founded. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter found a home. What separated them from countless others with similar talents? They forced themselves to take another step when retreat seemed the only rational option. Your potential doesn't care about your excuses. Your purpose doesn't negotiate with your fear. Your destiny doesn't respond to, "I'll start Monday." Consider this truth. Everything you want exists on the other side of action. Everything you fear loses power with each step you take toward it. The ancient Stoics practiced a discipline called premeditation of evils. They would vividly imagine the worst possible outcomes of their actions in order to recognize that even failure wasn't as catastrophic as inaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it with the same weapons of reason, which today arm you against the present. What weapons are you arming yourself with? Excuses? Rationalizations? The false promise of someday? Force yourself to take action. This is how character is forged. This is how legacy is built. This is how life is actually lived, rather than merely endured. When Eleanor Roosevelt said, "Do one thing every day that scares you," she wasn't suggesting a cute life hack. She was revealing the secret to expansion. Personal, professional, and spiritual growth happens only at the edge of comfort, never within it. The mind resists what the heart knows is necessary. This tension between comfort and growth, between the known and the possible, defines the human experience. Those who force action despite this tension are the ones who redefine what's possible. Think about the dreams that visit you in quiet moments, the ones you protect from cynical voices, especially your own. The aspirations that feel simultaneously impossible and inevitable. They exist for a reason. They are not random thoughts, but guidance systems, directional signals pointing toward your highest potential. But potential without action is merely decoration. Dreams without movement are just pleasant distractions. Force yourself to take action. Not perfect action, not complete action, just the next action, the step directly in front of you. Michelangelo didn't sculpt David in one motion. He simply removed everything that wasn't David, one chisel strike at a time. Your masterpiece, whether a business, a book, a transformed body, a healed relationship, emerges the same way, through repeated, intentional action. What stops you? Name it. Face it. Is it fear of failure? Then consider the words of Theodore Roosevelt. It is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. Is it fear of judgment? Remember that those who judge most harshly are almost always those who act least boldly. Their criticism is a projection of their own inaction, not a reflection of your potential. Is it uncertainty? Uncertainty is not an obstacle to action, but the very reason action is necessary. As Franklin D. Roosevelt noted during America's darkest hour, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. It wasn't certainty that rebuilt a nation, but action taken despite profound uncertainty. Force yourself to take action, especially when the path forward isn't clear. Clarity doesn't precede action, it follows it. Movement creates momentum, and momentum generates clarity. How different would your life be right now if, 1 year ago, you had forced yourself to take consistent action toward your deepest goals? How different will your life be 1 year from now if you begin today? The mathematics of sustained action are nothing short of miraculous. Small actions, repeated daily, compound like interest. James Clear observed that improving just 1% daily makes you 37 times better in a year. The inverse is equally true. Small neglects, daily postponements, tiny surrenders to comfort, these compound into lives of quiet regret. Force yourself to take action, not once, not occasionally, but as a fundamental operating principle. Consider this. When you're 80 years old, looking back on your life, what will you regret more? The actions you took that didn't work out perfectly, or the actions you never took at all? Bronnie Ware, a palliative care nurse who spent years with the dying, recorded their most common regrets. At the top of the list, "I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me." Not a single person said, "I wish I'd watched more TV," or "I wish I'd scrolled social media more often," or "I wish I'd waited until I felt completely ready." Force yourself to take action before regret becomes your closest companion. The world makes way for those in motion. Doors open, opportunities appear, resources materialize, not through magic, but through the magnetic power of decisive action. When Columbus sailed west toward an uncertain horizon, he famously told his men to burn the ships upon reaching shore. This wasn't recklessness. It was the profound understanding that commitment precedes success, and commitment is demonstrated through irreversible action. What ships do you need to burn? What bridges of retreat must you set aflame to force yourself forward? Jeff Bezos used what he called a regret minimization framework when deciding whether to start Amazon. He projected himself to age 80 and asked which choice he would regret more, trying and failing, or never trying at all. The answer propelled him to leave a secure job and build what became one of the world's most valuable companies. Force yourself to take action by making inaction more painful than action. Human will is strengthened through use. Each time you push through resistance, you don't just accomplish a task, you rebuild yourself. You become the kind of person who acts despite discomfort. This identity, the identity of a doer, a creator, a force of nature, becomes self-perpetuating. Consider the wisdom of Aristotle. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Force yourself to take action not just today, but tomorrow. Not just tomorrow, but next week. Not just next week, but until action becomes your natural state, rather than the exception. The momentum you generate will begin to carry you. What once required tremendous force will eventually require less. What once drained your willpower will eventually fuel it. This is the paradox of forced action. What begins as discipline evolves into desire. What starts as obligation transforms into opportunity. What feels like sacrifice becomes satisfaction. Your excuses sound reasonable. They always do. They're designed that way. The voice that whispers tomorrow sounds so rational, so prudent. But that voice isn't protecting you. It's preserving a version of you that's smaller than you're capable of becoming. Force yourself to take action despite that voice. Better yet, take action because of it. Let its presence be your signal that you're approaching territory worth exploring. When Andrew Carnegie, once the richest man in the world, was asked the secret to his success, he said, "Put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket." This wasn't just about focus. It was about committed action. No hedging, no half measures, no back doors. Just full throttle movement toward what matters most. What's your basket? Where should your eggs be placed? What worthy pursuit deserves your relentless action? Force yourself to take action toward that answer, not after you have the perfect plan, but in order to discover it. Nelson Mandela said, "There is no passion to be found playing small in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living." Yet playing small is exactly what happens in the absence of forced action. We settle not because we choose to, but because we fail to choose at all. No more. The life you want, the impact you're meant to have, the legacy you're destined to leave. None of it exists in the realm of intention. All of it exists only in the realm of action. Force yourself to take action, not despite your fear, but with it. Not after inspiration strikes, but until it does. Not when the path is clear, but in order to clear it. This isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's not about leaps, but steps. Not about transformation in a moment, but transcendence through momentum. Every champion, every visionary, every person who has ever moved humanity forward shares uncommon trait. They forced themselves to take action when inaction would have been easier, safer, more reasonable. You have the same capacity within you, the same power, the same potential. Right now, in this moment, you stand at the crossroads of who you are and who you might become. One path is comfortable, predictable, and ultimately unsatisfying. The other is challenging, uncertain, and infinitely rewarding. The choice is yours. But the mechanism is clear. Force yourself to take action. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when all obstacles are removed. Now. Because your life is happening now. Your purpose is calling now. Your potential is waiting now. And the world needs what only your action can create. Force yourself to take action, and watch as action forces open the doors that hesitation keeps closed. Begin.